Okay, everybody, welcome back. This is part 4 of our medical, legal, and ethical issues lecture. We're going to talk about the physical signs of death. This is going to be pretty important to you guys. You guys will also need to know this for your exam coming up. And we're going to be having a little bit of some medical terminology in here. I'm not going to throw in. We got to get used to doing medical terminology, and I'm going to define this stuff for you. But as always, if you have any questions, if I don't clarify something, please feel free to email me or bring it to class when we actually meet up and we can get it clarified for you guys. Okay? So, physical signs of death. Just so we all know, a physician is the only person that can actually truly determine the cause of death. Okay? We as EMS, these are kind of some things that we can look for in order to see if we really need to start resuscitative measures for our patients or not. Okay? So please make sure that you guys know these. I'm sure you guys are going to see these on one of your exams coming up. Okay? So any kind of unresponsiveness to painful stimuli. We've talked about how patient needs to be alert and oriented to person, place, time, and events. Okay, when we get into patient assessment, we're going to talk about something called the AVPU scale, AVPU scale. It's another mnemonic. It stands for alert, verbal, painful, and unresponsive. Okay, if they're unresponsive to any kind of painful stimuli, technically, that could be a sign of death. Okay. Lack of carotid pulse or heartbeat. The carotid pulse is the pulse up here by your neck. Okay, and again, we'll talk about that a little bit more when we get into lab. Absence of any kind of breath sounds. This is where you guys are actually going to put your stethoscope on the patient's chest to see if you can hear if the patient is actually breathing or not. If they don't have any deep tendon or any corneal reflexes. Deep tendon, we don't teach you guys at the basic level. You guys will get that when you move up into higher level of licensure, specifically when you guys get up to paramedicine. However, corneal reflexes is talking about the cornea of your eye. If there's no kind of reflexes with the pupil or the cornea at all, more than likely your patient is deceased. Absent of any eye movement. No systolic blood pressure, and we're going to talk about that more when we get into lab, when you guys actually start practicing systolic blood pressures. Systolic is the amount of pressure the actual blood is pumped against. So it's when your heart squeezes and it kind of ejects the blood out into the body. Again, we'll talk about that. Any kind of profound cyanosis. Cyanosis is basically lack of oxygen to a certain area of the body. And it will look blue or purple. Okay, you'll see it a lot in people's lips, around their eyes, to their nose, possibly even in their fingertips and toes. They'll look blue or purple. That's cyanosis. Or anytime your patient might be cool to the touch. Okay, anytime that they have a lowered or decreased body temperature are going to be your physical signs of death, and we're going to talk about a little bit more about this in the next couple slides here. Okay, carrying on with physical signs of death, definitive signs, meaning 100% positive this patient's dead. Yes, if your patient is or has been decapitated, they are dead. Let's not try to start any kind of resuscitative measures. We can't take that body and sew their head back on, unfortunately, in order to get them to walk and talk again, so they are dead. Any kind of dependent lividity, or what we call blood settling or blood pooling, okay? You guys can see on this picture, yes, that patient is very much dead in that picture. They were obviously laying on their back at the time of death, and the blood has pooled to their lower back, and it looks like a big, big bruise, okay? That is the blood settling in the body. Or blood pooling in the body, because it is no longer being circulated by a pump, also known as the heart. Okay, rigor mortis is where the body is stiff. Okay, you might not be able to open up that airway. You might not be able to, move their arms or legs. It could be detectable within 2 hours of death. Usually it takes a little bit longer, but again, it could take up to 2 hours to actually see. It usually affects the facial muscles first, and does make it hard to open up the airway. And then putrefaction is decomposition. Bodies will become bloated. Bodies will obviously start to smell. I think the longest decompensated body I've ever smelled was about 3.5 weeks. And it's something that it's hard to explain. It's really sour. It's just smell of death with a little bit of sweetness. Actually, it's kind of weird when you actually smell a decompensating body. And I'm sure at some point in your guys' career, you guys are going to be able to experience all of these, okay? So those are basically the definitive signs of death. Decapitation, yep, done. Blood pooling, yep. Stiffening or rigor mortis, yep. Or any kind of decomposition that we can see that patient is deceased. We do not need to start resuscitative efforts at that time. Something that we need to kind of become clear on from this moment forward. Any death in the state of New Mexico is a homicide until proven otherwise. Okay? I'm going to say that again. Any death in the state of New Mexico is considered a homicide until proven otherwise. Okay? That also technically includes if somebody has a DNR or we're dealing with a patient that is on hospice. Okay? Any death in the state of New Mexico is a homicide until proven otherwise. Okay? When we're talking about medical examiner cases, we really don't deal with medical examiners. This is more of a law enforcement kind of thing. There are some areas within New Mexico where you guys as EMTs will deal with medical examiners. Those are usually the rural parts of New Mexico, kind of our outlying towns, kind of some of our smaller villages and towns and whatnot that are found throughout the state. But the medical examiner does need to be notified in certain cases. Medical examiner will always be notified if there is something where we come up on scene on dead on arrival or dead on scene. All right, so you guys, the police might show up. You might get called for an EMS call. Police might show up and the police might cancel you and say, hey, patient is obviously dead. Okay? Or you guys might show up and you guys might be working a code. You guys might have started that resuscitative efforts. And when I say code, guys, I'm talking about patient is pulseless. There's no pulse. Patient's not breathing. So we're going to start CPR on these people. Okay? We only work CPR so long. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later on. But we only work CPR for so long. After that, we call a doc and we ask if we can stop our resuscitative efforts. And that's usually done by your paramedic. Any kind of unexpected death. There's been no previous medical care or a medical doctor cannot state the cause of how a patient has passed away. Usually we're going to get the medical examiner involved. That's more of a kind of a hospital thing for us. Any suicides, absolutely. Any infant or child deaths, absolutely. And any violent deaths, any kind of deaths that during a criminal activity, into the MVC stands for motor vehicle collision, or any kind of what we might assume to be or suspect to be some kind of poisoning or an overdose or something like that. That's all going to get the medical examiner involved. But really, in the state of New Mexico, okay, guys, every death is a homicide until proven otherwise. So the medical examiner is basically involved in all deaths in New Mexico, specifically all deaths outside of a hospital setting. Okay? So if you have any questions on that, bring those to class. I don't want to spend too much time on that, but just know that, and remember, all deaths in the state of New Mexico are a homicide until proven otherwise. There are some special situations, okay? Specifically, we're going to talk about some organ donors, okay? Or organ donors, when you guys get your license, when you guys get your driver's license, you guys can specifically say if you want to be an organ donor or not. Some people have different feelings about that. Okay. Myself personally, I don't need them anymore. If I can help somebody else, absolutely take whatever you guys need. Right. But some people are really kind of hesitant on that. And there are some religions out there too that prevent people from being an organ donor. Okay. If we do have somebody that is an organ donor, it's not that we're going to be working harder. We're just going to be working more diligently in order to help save that patient's life, right? Because specifically for like people with like head traumas, if we can keep the blood flowing to those organs, and we find out that this patient is an organ donor, more than likely we can save some of those organs in order to help some other people. The donation of organs must be secondary consideration after all resuscitated efforts have failed, right? So this is something that the doctors are going to take up. We don't take up with the family on this. No. This is where the doctors are going to take it up with the family. These are usually people that do not die in the field, okay? These are people that we have done resuscitative measures. We might have got some kind of heartbeat back. We decided to transport these patients to the hospital. We kept working this patient all the way to the hospital. We might have lost pulses during transport again. And then once we got to the hospital, doctors have declared time of death, and we're still working the code. And that's when they'll talk to the family to see if, what's going on with organ donation. This is just kind of for your own personal knowledge. You guys won't see this on tests. You guys won't see this on National Registry, okay? Again, yeah, many people fear we only care about organ donation. No, we don't, right? We're here to protect life and limb. We're here to serve the public as best as we feel the need to serve our public. We're not here to just try to keep them alive for organ donation, okay? Some other special situations is people could have medical identification insignia. Guys, these are actually prescribed to the patient, okay? If these are real, all right, these are actually prescribed to the patient. This is something that is sat down with the patient and their primary care physician. They fill out paperwork in order to get a prescription for a medical bracelet. Okay, this is a picture of a medical bracelet down in the corner of the screen there. It could be a bracelet, it could be a necklace, it could just be a card found in somebody's wallet. And nowadays, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's an app that you can get for the smartphones. You know how you guys, when your screen is locked on like your Apple or your whatever smartphone that you guys have, you can scroll up on the screen and you guys get like the like you could turn on and off your Wi-Fi, your Bluetooth, blah blah blah, right? Turn on your flashlight or whatever, set your alarm. That app will actually put down, you'll see the American Red Cross in the corner, and you can actually, people can download that app. And they can put down their demographics, their name, their address, their date of birth, their medical history, the medications that they're on, just in case they do go unresponsive. It's really cool, and it helps us out a lot. If you guys have older members in your family, please download this app for them. Please help them fill this out. It can really save some lives. Okay, we always check. We're being trained to check for smartphones. We don't have to be able to have the ability to unlock it. We just have to be able to scroll up, and we can get all the medical history of anybody from these things. It is awesome. Okay, so if you guys have somebody in your family that's a little bit older, might have some kind of medical condition, really encourage them to get that app. It is genius, right? Whoever thought of this is making a lot of money right now. And I don't even think that app costs anything, to be honest with you. So check it out. I forget what the app's called, but it's the app with the American Red Cross symbol on it. So these bracelets, necklaces, and cards, they are very helpful to us, right? You have somebody that's unresponsive. Let's make sure that we're looking for medical bracelets. Let's make sure we're looking for some kind of medical jewelry. It could tell us about a DNR order. It could tell us about allergies in the patients. It can talk about special situations, specifically disease processes, where somebody might be unresponsive, such as a diabetic emergency, epilepsy, which is a seizure disorder, or any other kind of serious conditions. Okay, again, this is similar to a DNR paperwork. Okay, there's going to be a 1-800 number on it. Okay, there's going to be the state where the patient's prescription has been filled for this. All right, it's going to tell you what's on there. It's going to tell you what it is. It's going to tell you it's a DNR. It's going to tell you allergies. It's going to tell you medical conditions. Okay, and it's going to give you the name of the patient, and it can have anything on there. Okay, the good part about it is on the front side there's a little 5 or 6 digit number, right, along with the state. So it'll be like NM for New Mexico 12345. Okay, you call that 1-800 number, right, and you punch in that NM 12345, right, and it'll tell you everything about that patient. Okay, so it's very helpful to us. They're popular again. There was a time where these kind of fell off the face of the planet. They are popular again, but now with the smartphones, with the Androids, with the iPhones, and all the apps that we can get in order to help us with medical history for our patients, these are kind of starting to dwindle out again. Okay, so make sure that you're checking your patient. Okay, it's okay to dig around in patients' pockets. It's okay to pull out their wallet, right, and look for stuff. Just make sure that you have a witness there with you while you're going through this personal stuff, and make sure you don't lose it, right? Last thing you want to do is lose somebody's, iPhone 12, right? I'd be pissed. I have an iPhone like 8. I don't even know what the hell this thing is, right? It's like, it's big. It's a doorstop, right? But, it's to the point where if I lose my iPhone, I have completely lost my brain. Okay? Please don't lose patient belongings. All right? But this is very helpful in our assessment and helping the patient if there is a medical bracelet or possibly the app that's downloaded onto patients' phones nowadays.